Hello, friend. The Mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from beneath 4 million cubic feet of solid granite, in the burning heart of the Yellowstone caldera. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. So, keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground, as Sumo and Smokestack connect your main brain vein to a higher plane. Are you ready? Stand by.
Good morning.
Good morning and Merry Christmas, Sumo.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. You hear that?
You playing some kind of weird instrument?
Yeah, you ready? Something like that, Dad. Got the dulcimer out today.
That's awesome.
Angels we have. The Holly and the Ivy is one of my favorites. I just always like that song, The Holly and the Ivy.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It sounds like something sort of out of time.
Yeah. Almost like a medieval sort of thing.
Yeah, can you hear this today? I got this too. What would you think that is?
You got the ukulele?
Well, yeah, but you tell anything different?
No, honestly, the sound quality is so bad I can't really tell.
Oh, okay, well that's fine. It's a banjolele.
A banjolele.
It's a banjolele. It's got a banjo drum for the body.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is a ukulele. And so you get, it gives you a little bit different sound. Like I saw Smokestack changing clothes. He was in the perfect pose. Smokestack, let your hair hang down. You familiar with that one?
No. Well, I guess I am now.
Yeah. I saw Smokestack bending over. Smokestack, let your hair hang down. The real name is Sally in the song.
I like this version better. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, these are things I fear the most. But Sally trying to keep a good man down. Sally singing praises, oh, and Sally singing hymns. When Sally sings my name, I'm born again. It's about a girl in church that's tempting him.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Sounds angsty.
Bad. Yeah.
So is she like a Jezebel character by the end of this scene?
Yeah, she's a Jezebel character. Let's see, some of the lines are, let's see, it's, I saw Sally with my wife downtown. My wife was wearing white and Sally brown. Sally, let your hair hang down. And then something about Sally, so anyway, he cheats on his wife with Sally in the song, I think. Or he's trying not to. Yeah. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, these are things I fear the most. But Sally trying to keep a good man down. Sally singing praises, yeah, and Sally singing hymns. Sally sing my name, I'm born again. Yeah, the banjolele gives you a nice... well, it makes it louder, for one. It's a lot louder.
Yeah.
And it gives you a little twangy...
Yeah, man. I like it.
Little twangy sound. This is a gift from Suplex, actually.
Oh, no kidding. That's cool.
A Christmas gift, yeah.
Good old
I've been having a lot of
Suplex.
fun with it. Almost heaven, West Virginia. And then it's Blue Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River. Life is older, older than the hills, younger than the mountains, flowing like a river. Something I don't remember that. But see, you play clawhammer style.
Yeah.
Where you like doom, it's boom ba ba doom, boom ba ba doom. That's how you play a banjo. So you pluck a string, the melody, then you rhythm, and then you do the harmony. So boom ba ba dum, boom ba ba dum. That's what gives a banjo its nice, it's a characteristic quality.
Gotcha.
Anyway, how's your Christmas going?
It's going great. We actually had Christmas Day this morning because we're going to hit the road and travel on tour of the Deep South to visit family.
Oh, nice. Yeah, your family lives in like the bayou or something.
Our data signal is so bad. I tell you what, I'm gonna clip in right here. I'm gonna call you.
Enough of the shenanigans.
Okay, can I hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
If the audio quality is bad this episode, it's your fault.
It's my fault. No, the audio quality.
No, not Smokestack. You, the listener.
Okay.
It's their fault.
It's your fault, listener.
I'm blaming you personally for this, listener. It's your problem. We're always getting scrambled by the Jesuits here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we gave Chad Wolf a PhD, and now I think he's feeling all high and mighty. He's been messing with our bandwidth, so I personally blame Chad Wolf.
He has been. Now your family, you said you're gonna go visit family, and they live in the bayou or something like that, or something. I forget where you told me they live, like Baton Rouge. Is that right?
No, we're gonna be down in Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi. Well, similar.
It's pretty much the same thing.
The difference between Louisiana and Mississippi is not big.
Well, I'm hoping
except near the coast.
Right, that's true. I'm hoping that Klaus Schwab doesn't kick off Dark Winter while I'm out on the road.
That could also be cool. You could have a nice story to tell about how you had to be on Mad Max of your Mad Max Christmas.
Yeah, that will be a great story. I'm bringing extra fuel and armaments and armor and some rad helmets for my wife and kids, with spikes and stuff on them.
Yeah,
like
very good.
Studded leather clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it does go down, we should look like a freaky band of wild cannibals. And maybe people will leave us alone.
How bad do you think things would have to get for you to resort to cannibalism?
I don't know that I could ever. Maybe I could. If somebody was trying to, if like a mortal enemy, somebody was trying to kill my family and I had to dispatch them and we were starving, maybe I could like eat an enemy.
So like if your plane went down in the Alps or something?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like one of my fellow passengers. I don't think I could do that.
Well, I give you permission to eat my body if I ever die before you in an emergency situation.
Okay, you'd probably be really nutritious.
Well, yeah, I'd be really nutritious, and I think you got to eat the organ meat. That's what is the meme now.
Yeah.
You eat the liver. I think you eat the heart, maybe. Don't eat the brains, because then you get kuru.
No, I'm not gonna eat the brain. I'll leave your brain. Your brain. There's no telling what's rattling around in that thing. So
yeah, you don't want the kuru. Although. Yeah, that's been a thing. There's been this meme, and I don't know how widespread it is. Sverg started it. Are you familiar with Sverg? I think I'm saying his name right. It's like SVRI backwards 3E. Sverg or something with a G in there too. He's this guy. He's an online guy, and he's Swedish. And he's balding pretty badly, but still keeps a ponytail.
Okay.
And he was a vegan for a while.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'm not healthy as a vegan. And so then he said, I'm going to go eat meat. But then he was still, because everyone's still a crazy person.
Yeah.
Rather than just do what the normal people do and like have a hamburger, he was like, I'm going to eat raw meat.
Mm.
And so his whole online persona has become him demonstrating how to eat raw meat. and he just like has these jars of like a cow liver, and he just pulls it out and starts chewing into it like it's an apple.
Ew.
And he goes, it's delicious, in his Swedish accent. It's so good. And then he started this thing of like lots of people following in his wake, as like he's like the raw meat cult leader.
Okay.
And none of them are dying. So that's interesting, or getting sick.
Yeah. Well, apparently if you can ferment meat, and if it ferments the right way, it's okay.
This does not look like they've done much of anything to it.
Just
I'm wondering if it's at least, they've at least demonstrated that eating raw meat is not as dangerous to your health as we once supposed. Because they've been doing this for years now.
Well, I think the danger of raw meats is how hygienic was the animal raised and cared for and slaughtered. So, if the meat gets sprinkled with rat turds at the dirty processing plant before you eat it, then you're going to get hantavirus or E. coli or something. But I mean, if the animal is cleanly and hygienically raised and slaughtered and processed, I mean, I eat some raw things occasionally. I'm not really into that, but certain dishes, I've had steak tartare and sushi, and yeah, I've had raw organ meat before, from a freshly killed animal. So yeah, there are ways to do it.
It's not something I'm gonna do. I prefer cooked food.
That
may just make me a boomer. Cooked food is boomerism. And the Generation Z is all gonna be raw food. I don't know.
That's gonna be a weird generation if they're raised on raw meat.
They're gonna be raised on raw. They're vegan unless it's raw.
This conversation just makes me think of like Michaela Peterson chomping into a giant cow heart or something.
I think even the Petersons recommended cooking your steak. And not just Sphere.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, this is the crazy thing about these people, which is something that endlessly fascinates me, is that they do things that we've been led to believe for years would kill you, right?
Yep.
And they not only don't die, but they get rich off of it, or at least make a Patreon living off of it.
Yeah.
And then, but at the same time, they are genuinely insane. Mm-hmm. And so there doesn't seem to be any correlation between how successful one is in life, or how like bodily health, and one's mental sanity.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any correlation at all, and maybe sanity is itself a meme.
There also, there's a lot of ways you can fuel a human body.
Sphere thinks that there are no trees.
What?
Or something. He thinks that these things that we have now should not be trees. And those big mesas out in Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that those are actually petrified wood from the true trees that fell long ago.
Oh, so what do we have?
We have shrubbery.
Interesting.
They're not worthy of the name tree because they're not like yggdrastils towering into the firmament.
Gotcha.
Or whatever. He's an absolute insane person. He also believes in flat Earth, mm-hmm. and in that if you go past Antarctica, there's 20 more continents because Antarctica's but at the same time he's he's more healthy than a lot of people, at least by the look of him. And so it's strange that, because we've been brought up in such an era of the worship of the intellect,
mm-hmm.
that it's sort of jarring when you see people who are just completely out to lunch, but at the same time are doing quite well. I mean, I guess that's America, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we've got the freedom to be insane and still make a decent living.
Well, I think American culture is that you should do better if you are insane, really. I mean, look at who our celebrities are,
Yeah. Although I think most of them are probably slaves.
Well, that's true. But that
But that's the perception, is that you can act like a total psycho and have a whole lot of beliefs that don't really work and still be wealthy and happy and live a life of luxury.
The guy currently best situated to to make his grave on another planet named his kid like ZX1297.
Yeah,
and
true.
thinks that we live in a hologram. And in America, that's what we want. That's what we promote.
Yeah.
That's what these people miss. That's what people like Redditors miss, is they're like, we should be reasonable and rational. It's like, that's not how America works. America is primed towards like both being disgusted by someone, but also being like, but maybe they have a point. And that's what American culture is.
What would be the kind of the Latin term for rule by the insane? You know, like democracy, aristocracy.
My Latin is not that good. My children have started Latin in school, and they're starting to leave me behind in Latin, which is not hard because I didn't know hardly any Latin. But I should ask them.
Okay, find out for us. Maybe Duke of Alba could hook us up with the answer to this.
Yeah, but I was
seems
just
like
having
he knows
some fruit
some languages.
cakes. I had some fruit cake today. I got some. The fruit cake I got was not the best. It's a nut-based fruit cake.
Mmm.
I'm more of a fruit-based fruit cake person.
Well, how do you have a nut-based fruit cake without fruit in it? Why is it still?
Well, it's got fruit cake in it, but it's heavy on the nuts, which is
okay.
That's a thing that came out of Texas because Texas makes all food incorrect. And that's a controversial statement, but they do. Their barbecue is wrong. Their fruit cakes are wrong. Their sweet tea is wrong. It's all incorrect, right? Because it's trying to be. It's like, oh, we're Texas and also Mexico.
Pull it together,
Tex-Mex,
Texas.
Woo! And it doesn't work. And this one I got from the local monastery up the road.
Okay.
And they rolled out some fruitcakes at Christmas time, and I think the abbot there is from Texas, and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And it's okay, but I tell him, I say, this is really heavy on pecans, and he goes, "You mean pecans?" And then he needs to be excommunicated.
Yeah, sorry, Abbott.
Pecans.
Come on, man. Get a life.
And we're back. What were we even talking about? Yes.
I don't know. We had technical difficulties. Again, it was the listeners' fault.
Yeah.
They were
guys need to pull it together.
They were pulling it together. I was talking about how I got the fruitcake, and it had too many nuts on it because it's from Texas, where they do everything wrong, including barbecue and fruitcakes and sweet tea. And I got this fruitcake from a monastery up the road where the abbot is, I think, from Texas, so he does it wrong. Mm-hmm. And I told him so. And I said, it's too heavy on the pecans, to which he replied, "You mean the pecans?" And to which I said, "You should be excommunicated for calling them pecans and being from Texas and putting them on my fruitcake and messing it up. And he needs to go way more on the cherries." That's all I'm saying.
So did he have to respond kindly to you because he's an abbot? Did he cheerfully put up with your...
He didn't have to.
Okay.
He didn't have to, but he did.
Oh, that was nice of him.
He didn't have to, but he did. And I think you know what? I think he took the criticism to heart.
Okay.
And next year his fruitcakes are going to be a little better.
Good.
And I say, listen, this isn't Texas. We don't just put a bunch of pecans into a bread loaf and call it a fruitcake here.
Maybe
That's
they grow pecans at the abbey, the monastery?
No, I'm not even sure where he got the pecans. And then I'm half tempted to go down the other direction and get a fruitcake from the Amish and show him, see, here is a proper fruitcake. Because the Amish make a proper fruitcake down there.
Bring him a specimen.
There you go. Yeah, say, now listen, arguments for the Reformation aside, they're winning with the fruitcake division.
Yeah.
And so you need to pull it together. And that's what that's because his fruitcake is just it's too nutty. It doesn't count. It's okay. I'll still eat it. You drink some eggnog with it and it's fine. But, yeah. So that's how my Christmas is going so far. How about yours?
You got a dissatisfying fruitcake. No, mine's good. We had family time this morning and opened presents and did all the Christmas things. We sang, what did we sing? We sang Joy to the World. And had waffles,
good.
Homemade waffles for breakfast. It was great.
I thought you said wassail for a second, like you went wassailing.
No, there's no. That's banned. Wassailing is currently banned by the governor in North Carolina.
What is wassailing? Is that where you go around and like?
I think that's
that caroling?
It's caroling.
Okay.
I mean, you can do it.
I thought it was maybe like.
You have to sing 6 minutes apart. something like that.
I thought it was maybe like Christmas trick or treat.
Mm-hmm.
Wassailing, because they used to do that,
They would like give out stuff. You just gotta sing for your treats.
Well, like in medieval times, all the festivals were basically, they were different, but they all had an element of the poor people getting violent.
Okay.
Which they all did that because like if you were got in a time machine right now and you went back to, let's say, France or England in the 1400s.
Uh-huh.
And it was December 25th and you would be like, what holiday are they celebrating? Because it would look a lot more like Mardi Gras.
Okay.
There'd be a lot of dancing. There'd be some lewd sexual activity in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
There would be people getting upset. The poor people, like trick-or-treating began from this sort of theme, which is there on holiday festivals, the poor people would get uppity. And they get into a big band and they go bang on rich people's doors and say, give us something or we're going to do something to you. And that's how it would. That's really how it happened. That's how trick or treat began, and that was also done at Christmas time. And you see that the only remnant in modern culture that you have is when they say, "And bring us some figgy pudding, and bring us some figgy," because they said, "Okay, look, let's calm it down. We'll just carol at their house, but we still expect them to give us something."
Right.
With the implied threat that if we have to sing too long, we're going to start throwing stuff.
They keep the Molotov cocktails in the back of their Christmas sack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually how the New York Police Department got started.
What?
Yeah. Well, Christmas was banned for a while in America because the Puritans didn't like it because of the aforementioned lewd sex acts and the upside downness of the whole thing.
The Puritans still don't like it.
What now?
The Puritans still don't. I know some Puritans that don't like it.
Oh yeah, they still don't like it. Both because they're correct. It has some pagan origins,
yeah.
Or at least not. I don't know about pagan origins, but it has some pagan elements,
right? It does.
But the Puritans that originally banned it had maybe a stronger case because of the violence but the poor people still kept Christmas even though it wasn't official the whole time. And you can find this in like the Puritan publications. It's like during December 25th, there's no mention of Christmas, but it says keep your servants and children from wandering too far afield tonight. And say that because they just go out and go crazy.
Yeah.
But so they would in New York in like I don't remember when, sort of the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
The go around and demand stuff from the rich people got a little too intense.
Yeah.
And it was basically a night of gang warfare and burning down the city.
You kidding me?
Bring us some figgy pudding! Bring us figgy pudding! And then he just stabs you with a ice pick,
This sounds like the 90s.
That's what it was. It was bring some out here now.
Mm-hmm.
Stab. And that's why that was when the NYPD really got going there. They were like, we got to do something about this issue, this Christmas problem. And so they formed, which is sort of ironic, because the NYPD was formed to put down mobs of violent poor people.
Yeah.
And now they're all complaining that that's what they do.
Right.
It's like, well, that's the whole point is, but so this is where, because Christmas today really is all over the world is American Christmas. We've shaped Christmas.
Indeed.
As most things in the modern culture around the world it has its roots in various American violences.
Mm-hmm.
Because the answer was that then the rich people in New York at the time really then gravitated toward A Christmas Carol, which was newly published.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, we're going to bring back Christmas officially so we can sort of get it under control how it's celebrated, and then we'll make it a thing that we do. And we'll have it, we'll just expect ourselves to, we'll give them the day off and we'll give them a Christmas bonus, just like Scrooge. And it'll be good.
So
And then they
really,
won't-
we have Dickens to thank for transforming Christmas into a night of roving mobs, violent mobs, into what it is today.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The whole modern Christmas is the ghost of the sort of Elizabethan, Edwardian period. Because it's like when you think about Christmas, there's always in the back of your head these images of like people in like the, Dickens in outfits walking around a snowy street, going, "Hey, governor," and then they give you a turkey or whatever.
Bob's your
That's
uncle.
sort of always there, yeah, and the Christmas tree and all that. Because they were trying to do that. They came out of this period of like, we've banned Christmas forever.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring it back and not have it be the thing where they get a beggar from the street and crown him the king of disrule for the night, and he dresses and he puts on a bishop's mitre hat and strips naked and walks around the street issuing new moral dictates, which is what medieval Christmas was. Because they just like to go a little crazy, and so then they came up with this gentler. Now I think it's an improvement. I think a lot of the stuff we've done, to make like all the Christmas tree, and even the elf on the shelf is good. That's a modern new one. It's a little creepy at first, but then you're like, oh, okay, it's actually just like a fun hide and seek game.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this, I think we've improved Christmas dramatically. Coca-Cola gave us Santa Claus, modern Santa anyway.
Yeah, really?
He really did. I mean, beforehand it was more like a Father Christmas. I mean, Santa Claus was there, but like his red and white suit and like the classic image you have of him, especially being fat, is from Coca-Cola because he was drinking all the Coca-Cola.
I thought that was the Amanita muscaria mushroom cult.
Well, it is. I mean, it comes out, we already talked about that, but the modern depictions of him originated with Coca-Cola billboards and magazine ads in like the 30s and 40s. And he was always drinking Coca-Cola, so he was always fat. Because beforehand,
Santa's got diabetes.
Yeah, beforehand, forever, St. Nicholas was skinny.
Mm-hmm.
He was more of a wandering mystical man, like a wandering wizard, And then he became like, "Hey, I'm hopped up on cocaine and fat. Let's have a good time."
I kind of like the I kind of want the Dick Van Dyke version of Santa Claus, in Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I mean, you can have your pick of Santa Claus. I have all these. My mom has all these Santa Clauses. She likes to decorate the house, and she has from like different places. The German Santa who wears the green and all that.
Yep.
So you can pick your Santa, but I think I think what we've done with Christmas has been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Little too consumery, yes, but also it's always been a time of excess. Indeed. It's always been a time of just to have more just for the sake of having more.
Yeah.
Now the problem is we don't do that all year long. The problem is we have feast days without fasting days.
Yep.
But it's okay. I think we're still going to be fine, and maybe we could even revive the crowning a king of disrule for a city every night or something. I mean, we sort of did that this year. Yeah. So it's coming all back around. Everybody's the king of disrule. It's Antifa, I guess. Yeah, it's gonna be. It's fine. So I've been having some good Christmas. I'm gonna dress up like Santa later. Awesome. It'll be great. I gotta do the thing. Me and my wife were having the strategy of how we get the Santa presents out, and all that stuff. Which is if you don't have children, you don't realize how of a tactical mission that can be. You gotta be sneaky. You gotta be sneaky, and especially because you got like kids' toys that you've kept, but then you gotta put them together that night, right? Mm. Like 1 year I had to put together a whole little miniature kitchen set at like 3 a.m. And so you don't realize until you have kids how much of a tactical issue Christmas can be. This reminds me of our inverted pyramid discussion. And as the kids get older, you have to work harder to keep the inverted pyramid of Santa Claus spinning. Well, that's true, but not all inverted pyramids are bad. I mean, that's the thing about Christmas. That's the thing about medieval festivals is they were always about flipping the pyramid over. Okay. Like you would have you would go and you'd have a time where you would, for that day of the festival, the masters would serve the servants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lords would give out money and candy and food to the peasants,
Right.
and they would crown a king of disrule, and he'd walk around naked with his mitre on his head, and he'd go to the cathedral and yell at the bishop and tell him all his sins. And it was just always an upside down. And I think that can be a good, healthy release valve for a society. Like, okay, we have a couple days a year designated to just sort of run amok. Don't kill anybody, probably, hopefully. Let's not do the purge.
Right.
But just go a little nuts. Just go, it's okay tonight. And then, because otherwise you do, and it comes out in an uncontrolled manner. You know, it comes out in this uncontrolled rioting that explodes in bigger fashion every decade or so. So you just, a couple nights a year, just go ahead and keep the fires to a minimum, and then let's just go. And that's, I think that's how Brazil, despite being extremely poor, maintains somewhat social stability. Is that they still have that practice in Mardi Gras where they just say whatever for like a week or two, and then no, the cops ain't gonna arrest anybody right now unless you do something really bad. So just go ahead, and then it's over and you got it out of your system.
Is in Carnival season? Is that there's no laws or anything?
There are laws, but the cops are also drunk.
Okay.
Right. There are laws, but the cops are also drunk. The cops are also dancing in the parade with the strippers.
Right.
And so they're sort of busy, and everyone just go about their thing. And that was how medieval people kept the peace, really. Because there was you talk about income inequality. Yeah. An absolute monarch and then peasants.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, well, okay, we'll just have some days where we, we'll allow you to get close enough to kill us if you want to, hopefully, but we're going to try to be nice enough so you don't. Right? And that was, that's not a bad way to handle the problem, really. Because, people are mad at Jeff Bezos now. How close can you get to Jeff Bezos?
Not close at all. Yeah.
Right. So, he can be sort of as dastardly as he wants to until people get mad enough that they form a big mob and corner him, which may happen one day, or Bill Gates or whatever, or the congressman, or and so but in their time they were like, we're gonna have some time where you can come into our castle, and if you try to kill us, we're gonna fight back, but you have a chance if you want to, but hopefully we've been nice enough to you in the year that you don't need to, and we're also gonna throw some food at you while you're here. Isn't that fun? And so that's how they handled it. And there's a lot of wisdom in that, probably.
I don't know. I kind of see it as how often during a year do you have to have these release valve purges?
Yeah.
Is maybe the more often you have to do it, the more indication that there's something fundamentally wrong with the structure of your society.
Maybe, but I don't. I wonder if it's just necessary, for people. I don't know. I've never seen a society that doesn't have pressure build up after a while.
That's true. It's a fallen world, and you're gonna deal with it, right? Somehow.
Right. So So maybe this Christmas, maybe tonight, guys, form in a little mob, and walk around to the richest neighborhood in walking distance, and just start screaming at them.
Give us figgy pudding.
Give us some presents, or we're going to throw rocks at you. Right? And then that could be a tradition that we revive.
Really, we should have done this last week because this show's going to air after Christmas Day.
Well, I'm expecting, if you want to be in maps, you gotta have a little foresight. You gotta sort of know what's coming.
True. No foresight on the part of the hosts, but on the part of the audience. You have to anticipate what we're going to say.
You have to. It's all on you.
Right.
As a listener.
I'm not here to make excuses for our listeners.
It's illegal for us to call ourselves therapists. Right?
True.
Now, does that mean that we're not? I don't know.
Yes, legally that means that we're not.
If it was legal to say that we were, would I? Probably. Because we sort of are in a non-legal sense therapists.
Yeah.
And we're trying to help. And a good therapist, what he does is he sits there and he lets you work through your problem. You just sit there and you talk about what your problem is, and he occasionally will say some incredibly obvious thing or ask you, really? And how do you feel about that? And you'll sit, and that's what we do here. And you got to work through it yourself, listener. You should have already thought about how to wassail your neighbors. But I was going to talk today about two very Christmassy things: packages and snow.
All right.
And I think that in the snow, but I'm going to leave off the packages for now because we may not have time for it. And you wanted to talk about, I think something you want to talk about will dovetail nicely into the snow.
Beautiful.
So, between the years 1300 and 1850, something very interesting happened. Can you guess what it was? It's a big period, 550 years, 1300 to 1850.
The medieval warm period.
Ah, oh, so close. Try again.
The Little Ice Age.
Correct. The medieval warm period was before that.
Gotcha.
The Little Ice Age. And see, your clue was about snow, right?
Yeah.
So it's foresight. Have the foresight. So this was, if you've never heard of the Little Ice Age, this was a period of pretty drastically reduced global temperatures, punctuated by 3 super cold periods. One about 1650, one about 1770, and one at the tail end in about 1850, which is when it stopped.
One of those was Krakatoa, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe. That's one theorized reason for why one of them happened.
Okay.
Which is probably true.
Okay.
But, So how cold was it? How cold was it? Well, during this period, the Baltic Sea froze over. Pretty intense.
Wow.
Farms and villages in the Alps were destroyed and abandoned due to encroaching glaciers. So they just came down. The glacier just sort of creeped down out of the mountain and overtook their town. Canals and rivers in Britain and the Netherlands froze over hard enough that they would hold annual winter festivals for over 200 years. Right? For over 200 years, the Thames in the middle of London froze solidly enough that they would have ice skating contests on it.
Wow.
Every year. The Swedish army was able to march across the frozen ocean to Denmark, which is what you would do, because the Danes always deserve it.
Always.
Yeah, they're just because they should be underwater, and they know it, and they feel guilty about that. Iceland was effectively landlocked for most of the year, and most of this 500-year period, and the population of Iceland fell by half because ice extended out from Iceland for several miles in every direction, closing all harbors and ports.
Wow. And fishing, I guess.
Yeah, and fishing. It was a bad time to be living in Iceland. Snowfall was much heavier than it has recorded than it's been before or since, and lay on the ground for many months longer than it does today. Commonly thought places that are pretty warm, like we think of as warm, like Portugal, had frequent snowstorms. And even the summers and springs were colder and wetter, more rain. Crop growing seasons throughout Europe had to be altered and shortened, leading to less reliable growing seasons. And it's probably the cause of all these folklore stories about people dealing with famine. Mm-hmm. In fairy tales, there's always a famine.
Yep.
And they never had enough food. It's because of the Little Ice Age. They were all being written in this Little Ice Age time. It was cold enough to produce better violins. Like Stradivari in the famous Stradivari violin. Mm-hmm. His violins, whose tones it's hard to replicate, it's because the wood he got from his trees in that period was denser. Because the trees had to be fatter to survive. Right? The Ice Age, this period caused the invention of the chimney, so you could build bigger fires in your house without burning it down. Is also the cause of plagues and stuff, most likely, and all the bread riots. So that's in Europe. In America, Lake Superior froze over almost completely in 1608, which is crazy.
That's huge. There's so much ice.
It's an incredible amount of ice. In 1868, when the French were exploring Canada, Pierre de Troyes said he was going down the James Bay there in Canada, which is sort of sort of above Maine.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly. He was going down there in the middle of July, and there were icebergs in the river big enough to hide his canoe behind.
Whoa.
In the middle of July.
Wild.
In 1780, New York Harbor froze, allowing people to walk from Manhattan to Staten Island. And the freezing was so intense that it caused the Native Americans to develop into larger leagues, which was part of the reason they were such a effective fighting force against the Americans.
Okay.
Who were trying to go west, because they formed these big leagues to try and deal with food shortages and lack of hunting game. There's a lot more cooperative. So it was this whole. I mean, it was so bad. It even reached down into like Africa, like in Ethiopia, they had like permanent snow on the grounds at some points.
Wow.
Which is insane. And Timbuktu was flooded 13 times in like the span of 10 years, and no records of that ever happening before or since. So it was very cold. Talking intense. Like, I mean, like you can see this in the art at the time. You know, if you look at paintings from Europe, you see like people like ice skating and they're having festivals in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
There's always like picturesque snow on the roofs. You know.
Yeah.
And that's. I mean, it still snows in Europe, but it's not like the main thing you think about. But it was so omnipresent that it was in almost like every painting. Just snow. So when people talk about the Earth getting warmer, it's true. It has gotten warmer, you know. And it's also true that the warming phase started more or less with the onset of the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they noticed like, it's getting warmer. And they said, it started when we had factories, therefore, bada bing, bada boom, you know. And that is really the whole basis of the global warming theory.
Mm-hmm.
Like where we're causing it. But as you mentioned beforehand, prior to this little ice age, there was the medieval warm period, which lasted for about 300 years. And it had the exact opposite effects.
Yeah, it was warmer than it is today. I mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, in a lot of places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. But you know what? So it doesn't really map onto our human activity very much. But you know what it does map onto? Sunspots. Sunspot activity. So the little ice, because astronomers have been observing the sun and blinding themselves for ages, like Galileo.
Yeah.
Who just decided, I'm going to take a telescope and point it at the sun with my eye for days and days. Because he was a genius, quote unquote. No, I like Galileo. He was a good. But that's sort of, it's sort of like I tell people when people talk about women in science, I'm like, name one female scientist, and they go Marie Curie, and I say, yeah, and it killed her. She's not. Women aren't supposed to do science because think of the one you can think of, and she's dead.
Yeah,
it killed her. Doing science killed her. But anyway, they kept they mapped the sunspots per year. And during this period, especially in the middle of the the Little Ice Age, there was basically zero sunspots.
Mm.
Like extremely noticeable. All right, and then around 1850 and through the 20th century, there were sunspots all over. Like we had sometimes you'd have as many as 100 a year. Like a huge number.
Yep.
Of sunspots. And I would argue, actually, when you think about how I just described what the Little Ice Age was like, that the global warming we've had has been a net positive.
Yeah.
It's like we've had huge, much longer growing seasons, much more food. Probably as much to do with industrialization has been how warm it's been for how much the population has exploded.
Yep.
Because you can grow things for longer. Things aren't freezing. Sunspot minimums go along with pandemics, even fake ones like we have now. It's going on. So this sort of stuff, I don't know, it's like, is it really that bad that we had this global warming, even if we are causing it? But here's the thing. You know what the big problem is?
We're going to get cold again.
The sunspots went away this
Yep.
decade.
Yep.
They went away. And when you look at the record, when the sunspots go away, there's a lag. Like from when the sunspots start to disappear, there's a lag of a couple of decades to where things start to cool off. And they cool off pretty. So what if we go into the exact opposite, and it's not actually global warming, but we start going into a freeze?
Mm-hmm.
That would be like, as there was a Forbes article recently called "The Sun is Asleep," where they talked about this. I mean, this year alone, we had a 100-year stretch where there wasn't one sunspot, which has been unheard of in recent times. The sun is entering as they call it, a grand solar minimum. You don't mean 100 year.
You mean 100-day stretch.
Days. Yeah, I'm sorry. 100, yeah. 100-day stretch. And so the output of the sun is going to start. Look, the sun was also in lockdown this year. Which goes to show you how truly tied we are to the stars. I mean, seriously, like, the astrology people aren't wrong. A lot of their predictions are wrong, but the general premise.
Okay. Because
these things tend to, like, for instance, we had the conjunction of Saturn, right, and Jupiter this year, and well, that's a whole thing. But the two warring kings, like the good King Jupiter and the evil King Saturn, they come together. It's just think about that for a little bit and what that might mean for this year. But it's not. The sun also went into, like, hey, I'm just going to chill out for this year. So it is possible. And I mean, think about it. Didn't it seem like we had a lot of snow in the 2010s?
I mean, not where I am, but a lot of other places did.
Yeah, I mean, like they're like up in New England and in North Dakota and wherever, they were like snowed in for long periods every year. Yeah. Like massive amounts of snow. So could it be that we're going into another ice age?
Yeah, if we are, we're just getting started.
Well, that's what Robert Felix in his book Not by Fire but by Ice said.
Ooh.
And now Robert Felix is a crazy person. But like I mentioned at the start of the show, that's why I mentioned Sphere. That doesn't mean he's wrong.
True.
That's the weird thing. It doesn't mean that his idea isn't, because Sphere was like, hey, I'm going to eat raw meat and I'm going to take this cow and just eat its brains every day. Are you going to cook it? No. You're going to get sick and get parasites. No, I'm not. And everyone agreed but he's still there. Like, he's been doing this for like 3 or 4 years. And he's fine. So maybe that's what makes me like, I'm always like, maybe everything I think is incorrect.
Does he deworm himself?
Because these people, I don't know. I don't know what he does. Like, but maybe worms are a meme too. Maybe you don't get worms that often. Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, wolves eat raw meat all the time. Are they constantly eaten up with worms? I don't know. Maybe they are.
Well, it depends on how the animal they ate was raised and what parts of it you ate. There's a lot of variables to that.
So, yeah. So I don't, maybe Robert Felix is correct, and he's argued this, and there's this whole movement now of people who are like, prepare for the Ice Age. Prepare for the Ice Age, which I feel is a good thing to do, just to counteract the warming hysteria, even if it's not true. Mm-hmm. They'll just be like, hey, well, I know you're all worried about this, but did you know we're actually going to freeze to death?
I might just jump into this one, like, with both feet.
I've been thinking about it, too, because it's like, well, I sort of want it to happen is the thing. I don't want it to get any hotter. It's been too hot for me.
Yeah, I mean, the Deep South will be darn right pleasant.
Right, because it would just get cold.
Yeah,
and that it'd be like, it's sort of nice, and then like everyone in Canada would die, and it's that bad, and
poor
so
Canada.
we'd have I love Canada, but they do need a culling, maybe.
Well, they've been goofing around with the Chinese military, and maybe they deserve it. Just saying.
Well, if you've ever been to Toronto, if you go to British Columbia, you're like, Canada's great. If you go to Toronto, you're like, Canada should be nuked from orbit. Vancouver's fine.
Yeah.
British Columbia's fine. But the sort of Toronto, Montreal's even okay, but Toronto's like, ugh. But yeah. So the question is, listener, what are you doing, and what are you gonna do to prepare for the coming mini ice age,
Mm.
which may last 300 years. You don't know.
Man.
You don't know how long this is going to last.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so I've been doing some research into this, and right now I can see my car because I'm in the garage, and my car, which is a small car, not made for this sort of thing, is full of lumber. And there's like lumber in the side seat, and there's like lumber poking the driver in the back of the head. Because one of the things I'm going to do is, much to my wife's chagrin, is I am in the process of filling our basement with rabbits.
Yes.
Now she said to me, "Isn't this crazy? What are we going to do with the rabbits?" And I said, "Well, if it comes to it, we can eat them. But we can also just raise them and sell them, because if you raise that nice show breed rabbit, you can sell them for a pretty nice little profit."
Mm-hmm.
And you can also, I'm embarking on a process of, because I've been one of the ladies I like to listen to who talks about the mini ice age is this lady called Marjorie Wildcraft. You familiar with her?
No, I'm not.
Marjorie Wildcraft runs the Grow Network, which
Okay.
is, she started, her origin story was, she also had what she would call a Zen slap. You know, like in the Zen stories, when the student finally is enlightened, like oftentimes the teacher slaps him. You know.
Uh-huh.
And she was flipping houses, basically, is her career. She was a real estate agent that specialized in buying houses and selling them quick, right? Flipping houses.
Yep.
And she got interested in, I think she had like a immune disorder or something, so she wanted to cut out allergy foods, or if I remember her story correctly. Anyway, she got interested in growing her own food, and she thought, this is great. I would like to share this healthy food that I've been growing with the community. And she lived in Texas, and so she went to the local Texas Education Board, and she said, "Hey, I have this great plan. What if we have a program to fill all of the schools in the county with local produce? Like, we just get produce here, it's organic, it's healthy, and it'll be great. And we don't have to get all this processed stuff that has a lot of salt and a lot of preservatives and artificial stuff, and it'll be healthier." And the board was like, "Great, that sounds awesome. This is a great idea." And she was like, "Excellent." And they gave her some funds to go look into it.
Mm-hmm.
And she came away horrified because she did extensive research looking around. And of everyone that she could find in that county that was growing any sort of edible food at all,
Yep.
there was not enough to feed even one elementary school. And she was like, "Oh, snap."
Yep.
And this is not in a big city. This is in rural Texas. Because, see, here's what the city people think. They think, oh, well, if the economy collapses and it's a zombie apocalypse, we'll just go to the countryside and steal their food. But the big flaw in that plan is there's no food there either.
No, there's like
That's the
soybeans
big...
and yellow dent corn.
Right. Yes. The countryside mostly grows these giant cash crops, which many of them are not edible, or if they are edible, like the corn, it's not the sweet corn that you would want, and it's not great to eat solely as your meal.
Yep.
And you really can't survive off only it. And there aren't a lot of gardeners right now in the rural areas. There just simply aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think about that for a minute and you say, America's full of like 325 million people-ish. And of those, maybe 1% of 1% can produce even 1 calorie.
Yeah, it's not good.
And then you say, what if something goes wrong with this beast of a supply chain system we've had? Like, I don't know. We shut it all down because of a fake flu.
Yeah.
Like, I was reading today that Boris Johnson is holding emergency meetings to stave off food shortages because they've locked down their whole country where they get a bunch of their food from.
Mm-hmm.
No exports in. That could be a problem. I mean, it probably won't be immediately. These things take time.
Yep.
but they also snowball. That's what catches people off guard because it's like compounding interest. It's like, oh, it's not a big problem. It's not a big problem. It's getting a little bigger, but it's not big. Oh, it's getting really big. Oh, it's getting big faster. Oh, no. And then it's over, right? That's how collapses happen. Is they go. It's like Hemingway said, my favorite quote in the whole world. They asked Hemingway, how did you go broke? And he said, well, very slowly and then very, very suddenly.
Yeah.
Right? That's how those things happen. And so Marjorie Wildcraft, which was, she was like, this is a big problem. We need to start growing food. So she started the Grow Network, which was to help people and encourage people, start communities about like, hey, you should be able to grow at least a few calories yourself. That would be very helpful.
Yep.
In the event. I mean, for not only humanitarian reasons, like this is somewhere where we can get on board with a lot of the leftist causes 100%. Like factory farming is not that great.
No.
It's mean to the animals. They use a lot of unhealthy products. The animals are stressed and their hormones, and there's all these bad hormones in their meat, which are bad for you. It's not good. It'd be a lot better if we had a smaller scale farming, but more of it, rather than these big factory farmings. Like there's 100% we can get on board with that.
Amen.
And we could, and also then you're not so, because a lot of the fear that people have, and a lot of the reason they're so easy to control with fear is because they're reliant on this giant system that none of them understand.
True.
And if the politician says this could be bad for the giant system you don't understand, then they're like, oh no, I can't grow even one tomato. So I'm going to listen to whatever they say.
Yep.
Right? And it takes away a lot of and just doing simple things, like it proves to yourself that you can do it. And then a lot of the fear goes away. Because it becomes a manageable problem, right?
Yep.
And so our house right now does not have a lot of yard space. It does not have a lot of, and it's also typically quite hot where I feel that rabbits would maybe die without significant cooling measures. So I thought, well, why don't I just put them in the basement? There's a lot of light down there. They'll enjoy it. And then I started getting some lumber, and my wife was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm putting up a rabbit hutch. And she was like, what? I was like, don't worry, it's going to be great. And if you ever tell your wife, don't worry, it's going to be great, you know that you're starting on a process.
Yeah.
If you ever have to say the words,
yeah,
don't worry, it's going to be great, you're starting on a long process of getting them to see what you already see, which is how great this idea is.
Yeah, just don't be wrong.
Yeah, just don't be. And if you, well, I said to her, if it doesn't work out, we can just get rid of the rabbits. But see, the thing about rabbits is, well, I was listening to Marjorie. Are you still there? It made a beepy sound. Oh,
I'm here.
No.
Yeah.
Ruckus is texting me. Hello, Ruckus. If you can on the Grow Network, they have this program that says, in 1 year, create half the calories your family consumes.
Wow.
It's not a bad goal.
Yeah.
And her 3 things, she says, here's your 3-step plan. Rabbits, chickens, and some vegetables. Bing, bing, bing. Now, the easiest one for me to start, I don't really have a place for chickens. Right? So her thing was like, because you need a protein source, right? And that's going to be livestock. Okay. But a lot of people don't have room for a cow or pigs. And they're also cleaning a cow or a pig to turn it into meat is a process.
Oh, it's work, man.
It's a big thing, and you really need help, and you need cleaning a chicken or a rabbit, not that difficult. Now the rabbits provide meat, because if you get 2 rabbits, if you get a boy rabbit and a girl rabbit, you have 2 rabbits. In about 40 weeks' time, you may have 12 rabbits. They go pretty quickly. Like, you can multiply the amount of, and they also eat grass. You can, in some cases, depending on where you live, literally just feed them from your lawnmower bag.
That's awesome.
And then you mow over some clover, take the lawnmower bag, put it in their cage, and now you're growing meat. You're growing livestock, right? Whereas chickens eat grain, so it's a little bit harder to, and bugs. You can also feed them bugs. But the rabbit, you can, if you get one buck and a couple of does, 2 or 3 does, you can be making like 100 rabbits a year, which is, slightly less than, it's slightly less than 2 rabbits a week that you can be eating, right?
Yeah.
For your family. And one rabbit, a good 5-pound rabbit, can provide a nice dinner and most of a lunch for a family of 4. So there's a good protein source right there, like boom. Then you have a couple of chickens. You don't have to get a rooster if you live in like a suburb. Roosters will annoy your neighbors a lot, right? You can just get hens that will lay the eggs. You can get a rooster if you want to, but just be aware that they're very loud, right? And so I'm embarking on this project. Again, I say a lot, don't worry, it's going to be great. I repeat this phrase. I'm just going to get it like cross-stitched into a pillow at this point and just put it on the thing. Don't worry, it's going to be great. I'm embarking on this project to have a basement, basically garden and rabbitry.
Sweet.
I don't know if it's going to work, but I have it in my head that we're gonna because but I don't have a yard very much at all, but I have a pretty large basement area, and it's very cozy in that I can control the temperature quite well, and I think there's plenty of room, if I do it correctly, for the rabbits to run around and get their exercise, and also there's a lot of like layers, like shelving layers, where I could install grow lights.
Yeah.
Which I could basically have indoor vegetables. And I think I could do this via solar power. Which sounds inefficient, and it is, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to capture the sunlight and then pipe it through a cable and produce other UV lights using another bulb. Right? Which on the surface sounds insane.
If only there were an easier way to do this.
If only there were an easier way to get UV light to plants.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know what that could be. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be fine. I did some basic calculations on the wattages involved, and I think it's doable.
Well, the great thing about that is you can grow vegetables in the winter.
That's right. That's the other thing. You can grow vegetables all year round. And also, occasionally, I've tried to grow things outside here before, and I have a couple problems. One is that I'm not here all day to manage them, which is a big issue for me, because if I leave like last year I tried to grow a bunch of tomatoes, and I found that if I ever didn't look at the tomatoes for an hour, then a bird had come and eaten the tomatoes.
Yeah.
Or a squirrel, or a rabbit, for that matter, or a groundhog, honestly, who was a big bane of my existence. Who would come up there, I'd be sitting there, and then I'd go away for a minute, and I'd come out, and he'd be sitting in the flower pot, just chewing on it, the plant, like just not, and then I would run out there, and he'd dart into a hole, and then he'd come back later, and it was and so I got the neighbor's cat, and I said, here, can the cat hang out here, feed the cat on the deck for a minute, and the cat will see if that works, and then maybe I could get a cat, right, if it worked.
Right.
So I got this cat, and then I leave, and the next day I come, and the groundhog is in the pot again, and the cat is hissing at the groundhog and looking at it, but the groundhog is just staring the cat down, saying, in groundhog speak, I have no concern for you whatsoever.
Is your backyard, is your yard fenced in?
No. That's a thing that maybe could happen, but it would be just for the problem is I share the yard space with a lot of other people, like other properties.
Yeah.
So I don't really have full control over what happens to it. But this groundhog does have full control over what happens to it. And he can look at a cat and say, if you want to try me, go ahead. And the cat is totally useless. So I have nature is attacking me here. And so I thought, well, and also caterpillars were a big problem.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I'll just remove all those. And yes, I will have to capture and transmit the sun down a wire and then re-emit the sun later using artificial technology.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's okay. And also, it'll be pretty cool if it works and I have like a full basement garden and rabbits. And
That will be pretty rad.
It'd be pretty awesome. And I think it's doable. I've seen other people do similar. Maybe I'll do hydroponics. I don't know. First, I'm going to work on the rabbits and cross-stitch that pillow.
You can fertilize your garden with your own urine, too.
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course that's what I'm going to do. And so if anyone out there is good at cross-stitching, just go ahead and make that phrase into a pillow for me. Don't worry, it's going to be great. Because I've been saying it a lot lately.
It's going to be great.
Don't worry, it's going to be great. And then, now the other thing I was going to do, now here's the problem. I don't want to have to kill the rabbits now.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Because I'm pretty sure my children are going to get attached to the rabbits. And if our basement becomes a rabbit slaughterhouse, they're going to be upset. Right? If the basement is like, and this is where Daddy kills the rabbits.
You just gotta introduce them to the circle of life, man. They can be friends with the rabbits until it's time to eat them, and that's okay.
Well, that's true. That's true. But see, I figure we have. But see, I figure we have the rabbits, and then if we ever do need the rabbits, they're there. But also, I learned that you can make a fair bit of money just raising and selling these special breed rabbits.
Okay.
Because people like them, and also because I didn't know this. Did you know that you can breed rabbits for wool purposes?
I didn't.
There's a breed of rabbit that makes this. It's called an Angora rabbit or something like that, French Angora. And it basically looks like a rabbit llama. It's like a rabbit, but its hair is like 5 inches long, flowing off of it in this gorgeous mane. And you all over its body, and then you shear the rabbit occasionally, and you sell this, and it sells for like $15 an ounce or something crazy.
Wow.
It's insane. And so then you just shear the rabbit and you put it in a bag, and then you get on Etsy and you're like, I have rabbit wool. And all the Etsy moms over the United States are like, give me the rabbit wool, I will pay whatever you ask. Because it's a highly prized wool. Apparently it's much warmer than sheep wool.
Wow. And
it produces a nice effect. Like it gives a nice look because rabbit hair is different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, maybe maybe my basement will become a wool factory.
I like this.
Of rabbit wool.
You can get a spinning wheel, man, and spin your own yarn. Well,
I don't know if I'm going to go that crazy. I'm not very crafty.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like, if the apocalypse requires me to crochet anything, it's going to be bad. Because I'm not good. You know those straps that have buckles on them that you adjust the length and stuff?
Uh-huh.
I can never get those to work. I've never been good with ropes. I'm bad on boats with rigging. I'm
sorry. Yeah.
I don't get along with ropes. I should do a ropes course, but not like one you climb on, like one you learn how to tie knots and do rope things.
Sure.
I've just never had a lot of experience with ropes. And I don't think that I'm going to then jump into braiding and making thread.
Okay, well, I know somebody with a spinning wheel, so we can talk after the show. I can hook you up with a buyer.
Yeah, I'll say, here's some beautiful rabbit fur. And you can get these rabbits in all these different colors and stuff. And so you got to get creative. And there's all these, like, when you start looking into like these various homesteading things, people have done wild things you couldn't even imagine. Like there's people raising llamas like in their bathroom. And like, hey, this is the llama's bathroom. And then people have done things. Now I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying it could be an option for but the general trend of we need to be a country that is capable of producing at least 1 calorie a person is a worthy goal, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's maybe that maybe not having any control over your basic needs of survival is maybe the basic problem.
Yeah.
Because that creates fear and uncertainty in people, and that allows big corporations and government to control you a lot easier when they control every single thing that you need to survive.
Yep.
But what if you made your own electricity? What if you had a lot of your own food? What if how much of these shackles start to go away? And plus, we're also going to all freeze to death. So you might as well start.
Well, if you have your Angora rabbit wool,
I'm going to be covered in rabbit fur. in like a decade from now, when the Mississippi River has frozen solid, I'm going to be skating on it in like a full Native American cast can made of rabbit fur. Awesome. And everyone else is going to be like, they're going to say, look, there's the guy who knew. He knew about the solar minimums. And now he's got a crocheted bonnet of rabbit hair on his head.
It's going to be rad.
Fantastic. I saw a woman I first learned about, I went to one of those like the little, not really a farmer's market, but more like a trades fair. Mm-hmm. And there was a woman there. This is what got me thinking about this, the rabbit fur part. She was there. She had a rabbit in her lap, and she was just basically spinning thread off the rabbit's body.
Weird.
It was somewhat magical. Like, she was like a magical old woman. She had this comb, and the fur would come. She would just be petting the rabbit, and it was eating some celery. And then she would put it on, and she'd spin. And then there was this thing of yarn just coming right off this rabbit. And it was sort of a magical moment. I was like, that's pretty. That lady is also going to survive the solar minimum.
Yeah.
That kind of lady is also going to survive the solar minimum. So that's all I'm saying. You need to look at that. You need to look. Marjorie Wildcraft, remember, we're a feminist podcast. We listen to a bunch of women.
Okay.
Marjorie Wildcraft, great lady. Mm-hmm. She runs the Grow Network. Check that out. It's free to join. Put you in contact with a lot of people who are also growing things. Many of them will probably be in your area if you don't live out in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of them are doing insane things also to try and grow food in their limited circumstances. So you can learn from them. Also check out Anita Bailey, who wrote a book called Cold Times, Preparing for the Mini Ice Age. She lives in Missouri. I think, and her Zen Slap was in 2015 on May 2nd when her tomatoes died because the ground in Missouri was covered in snow on May 2nd. And she said something is different now. Like the calendar's a bit off. Yeah. Right? And so she started looking into that, and she wrote this book about what she and her family are doing. So like I said, I don't think you have to do it for Ice Age purposes necessarily, although that makes it sound more fun. But just having your own stuff is nice, right? Yep. And then, like I say, you can put up you too can put up a llama in your bathroom, or a rabbitry in your garage. And the great thing about either of those is that if it doesn't work out, you can just stop doing it. It's worth a try, It
is. Yeah, it is worth a try.
It's worth a try. And if the rabbits aren't working out for you, or you don't like having chickens, just get rid of them. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Just keep the male separated from the female and eat them. Then you won't have any more. And then you can just tear down that thing. And it'll be okay. Lesson learned.
Well, you can let me know if you want to get rid of your rabbits or chickens, and I will come over and kill them and butcher them for you. And I'll split the meat with you for my time.
Yeah, that'll be fine. And then, but I'm gonna hopefully in the next couple of weeks up on the Maps website will be a picture of my garage with rabbits in it.
I can't wait.
I hope so. And they're going to be woolly rabbits.
I think we need to have a friendly competition of who can do the weirdest agriculture in their garage.
That would be pretty awesome. Because, and you have to, one of the requirements is you have to not use the sun directly, but pipe the sun in through wires.
Okay, Garage Agriculture Contest 2021 for Maps hosts and listeners.
Maps hosts and listeners. Whoever can do the... we'll have a couple of different, what do you call them?
Merit badges?
Competition. Well, there'll be a livestock competition.
Okay.
Like if you have a living room cow, you're going to win that one. I don't think that you should.
No.
But and then we'll have maybe a vegetables, maybe an herbs competition. I think you're going to win the herbs because you've been doing a lot of stuff with herbs lately.
Well, my herb stuff is mostly outside, but there's some things that I would like to have.
Look,
What?
growing plants outside.
I know, ridiculous.
What kind of
Ridiculous.
crazy talk is that?
But to have some things you need them fresh. You need to get them fresh.
That's true.
And it would be nice to have that in the garage. So I'm gonna have to give this a thought because I have a large garage also that currently is just scattered with junk, as most garages are. Maybe I could be putting that to better use.
The other advantage of the garage is because, like I said, I think a lot of this would mitigate if I was a full-time farmer. But a lot of my plants that I've tried in the past have been just like destroyed by a sudden monsoon.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and then they're dead.
Yeah.
Well, that was annoying. So then I'm just gonna isolate nature here and say, okay, I'm gonna make my own little nature here.
I feel like we need to be able to get you to the point where you can grow a vegetable outside. This needs to be overcome, though.
What if I can grow a tremendous garden, but only indoors?
I mean, that's cool, but I feel like something's missing here in your strategy.
I agree, but we got to start where we are.
That's right. That's true.
That's what Marjorie Wildcraft says. She says, "Start where you can start."
Sounds like a wise lady.
She's a wise lady. She says, "Start where you can start." She said, "When I started, I just bought a couple chickens and put them in a little doghouse, cut a hole in the side of it."
There you go.
Or whatever. And then there you go. And did a lot of them die to coyotes and foxes? Yes. But then I got more. And I learned how to stop that. Right?
Yeah.
Because we did used to have chickens growing up, and they would get eaten by predators semi-regularly.
It does happen.
It does happen.
It's part of the game.
It's part of the game. But, that's another thing the basement solves. Really, I may have reached the pinnacle of gardening here, where I don't have any of the traditional gardening problems.
Well, you're going to get mice, just so you know.
Well, that's where maybe the cat can stop.
Then the cat can. Then you got to bring the cat in.
Maybe the cat can handle the mice because the cat lost. It didn't. The cat. Like a UFC fight when they stare each other down beforehand.
Yeah.
It was like that, but the cat just was like, "All right, I'm calling the fight off." The cat was not interested in tangling with this groundhog in the slightest.
This cat is terrible.
It was a big cat, but a full-grown groundhog is a big ant. It's a wild rodent.
And
it has giant teeth.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the cat was just saying, I personally don't care this much about this tomato plant to risk getting bit by those teeth. Was going through the cat's mind. Like, I know you care about the tomato plant. Huh?
Why didn't you just go grab the groundhog or tangle with him?
Well, I saw him like I only saw him purposely like with my own eyes like 3 times. I usually see his evidence, and every time I ran out there, he'd just bolt away.
Okay.
And dive into his hole. And I should have done something like thrown a grenade down there or something, but I didn't. I don't know what the recommended procedure is for flushing out a groundhog from his hole.
I see.
But you probably do. Can any of your new herbs that you've made flush a groundhog out of his hole?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
But, that's a good setup anyway, because listener Albert Einstein gently remonstrated me recently and said, "Hey, you need to bring back the people skills segment of Yore." And I said, "Well, dude, there's only so many skills that I can learn to such a degree that I can then pass them on to you via the show." And he said, "I don't care, dude. Work it out. You're the podcaster." So I figured in lieu of that, we would do an herbal medicine update.
Oh, good.
So I've been on this this personal herbal medicine exploration project for going on a year now, and I've tried a lot of stuff. And so I was going to review my stack. That's what the kids on Twitter call it. All the stuff they're taking. I'm going to go over my herbal stack with you guys.
Oh yeah, a stack.
My stack of herbs. So from most highest quantity to lowest quantity in my stack, the list, I'll run it through you. I'll just go through the list and then we'll go one at a time. So first is Eleuthero, then ashwagandha, then
I've heard of that one.
It's a popular one. And then astragalus, nettle, nettle root specifically, and then rhodiola. So we'll start with Eleuthero. Eleuthero is super cool, and it's actually the most researched herb in history. Well, probably, I don't know. Marijuana probably takes the cake on that, honestly. But as far as actual beneficial medicinal herbs, Eleuthero wins because of all the studies and stuff that the Soviets did on it years ago. And they found some really interesting things. One, for men, it helps you make better use of your natural androgens. Okay. It has immune-enhancing benefits. Specifically helps you keep your T-cell lymphocyte count up, which is especially effective for preventing fake COVID.
Yes, it is.
And then the Russians found that it helped people handle stressful situations better, perform under excessive physical labor, mental accuracy in proofreading documents and all this. So they studied this. They gave a bunch of secretaries Eleuthero supplements and then had them proofread things and type, and they counted their typing errors, and they did all this weird stuff. Like, if you're going to be a bureaucrat, the most effective Soviet bureaucrat ever, we're gonna jack you with chemicals so our secretaries are more efficient than the capitalist imperialists. Okay. So that's what they did, and they discovered that how well this worked. And actually, I've noticed personally all of these benefits. And here's another one that's really interesting: is a Russian study of Eleuthero was done on 13,000 auto workers, and they found that those who took the herb developed 40% fewer respiratory infections than the group that didn't take them. I mean, so
that's pretty good.
The depth of research on this herb is stupendous, and it's starting to become a real popular herbal supplement among right-wing bodybuilding Twitter, I've noticed, and other groups. Good. So, but probably the biggest net effect that I've noticed from this and a couple others has been the reduced amount of respiratory infections that I've gotten over the past year. So I've got little kids, and so this would also apply to ashwagandha and astragalus. As we go on the list.
If your kids go to school, and I know a lot of kids didn't this year. Yeah. But the first week, everyone in the house is sick.
Right.
Because they go and they get all the germs and they bring them home.
Yep. And then right after break. Now I haven't gotten sick. I think I may have gotten one minor cold briefly for an entire year, which for a parent of small children, that's pretty awesome. I used to get 4 or 5 before I started taking this stuff. So the next herb on the list is ashwagandha, and it is very similar to Eleuthero. It's an adaptogen, which means it helps you adapt to stress. It's a little bit of kind of a stimulant, not in like a tweaky way, but just to help you with energy and exhaustion and stuff, the things that you deal with, like being a man working a full-time job, approaching middle age, sitting at a desk all day, that kind of thing. Also considered a nervine tonic, just sort of help you relax and deal with stress, and an anti-inflammatory. So if you have arthritis or just stiff when you get out of bed in the morning, that kind of thing, just helps with all these little things. Go ahead.
How do you take this stuff? Do you just chew on the plant itself, or do you make it into a thing?
No, I'll buy all the dry herbs. Sometimes I'll grow things, but usually I just buy the dried herb online, and then I'll get a 2-pound bag of it, and then I'll make an alcohol tincture. So I'll take it in certain proportions and soak it. It takes about 2 weeks. And you put a bunch of herb in a mason jar and fill it up with 70% grain alcohol and just let that soak. And so every day, twice a day, depending on what's in my stack, I'll take like a little 10 ml shot of this mixture of tinctures that I've made. And so I tweak the recipe. Every couple of months when I go through my batch, I'll say, okay, I like this, or I didn't like that, or I want to try this. And so I'll tweak. I've been tweaking this formula over the past year of this daily mixture I'm taking. So ashwagandha is similar to Eleuthero. Also helps with conversion of T4 thyroid hormone to T3, which, so if you have like low thyroid stuff. It can help with that. Now, astragalus, the next one, is specifically for enhancing your immunity. And when I started taking this is when I noticed getting less colds. And then that effect was enhanced when I started taking it also with Eleuthero. But the astragalus is great. It's kind of a pain in the butt to deal with because you have to simmer it and then you have to tincture it. So it's like a 2-step thing, and I use a crock pot for that.
What is it about tincturing it that is better than just like swallowing it like a raw plant? Like what does the tincturing do? Is it just pull out the stuff into the...
Well, you'd be chowing down a lot of like woody fibrous material if you did that, because a lot of this is like dried roots and woody parts.
Oh, okay.
So
it's fibrous. Okay.
Yeah, the alcohol is just a really effective solvent in drawing out the active ingredients that you want. Well, you don't have to intake all that fiber, and it preserves it also.
So, like, this is what I'm imagining now is like there's a vial, and at the bottom is a bunch of the dry material, but it's soaked out its goodness into the liquid.
Right.
And you're not drinking like the plant. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The way it works out practically is I'll just fill a mason jar with the dried herb, and then I'll fill that on top of that with 75% grain alcohol. And I'll just let it sit on the shelf for 2 weeks. There are proportions. It's usually a 1 to 5. It's 1 ounce of herb to 5 ounces of alcohol, or something like that. But I'll link a few books that I like to use at formulary. But I find tincturing to be the most effective and easily controlled thing you can do. So the astragalus is kind of a pain because you have to work it over twice. But I find it worth the effort in getting results as far as not getting sick all the time. Let's see. Let me go down the list. So nettle root. So this is some stuff I got from Buhner, who is New Age Santa Claus. Stephen Herod Buhner. He's got a glorious white beard and he wears a beret and a purple scarf and he's always smiling. And he looks like Santa Claus. It's fantastic, which means you can trust everything that he says. And so nettle root is like Eleuthero, helping middle-aged men take better advantage of their natural androgens. And part of the operating theory here is that so much in our diet and our environment, so I'm thinking like plasticizers and phytoestrogens and soybean oil and all this stuff, they're all endocrine disruptors and they're messing with your endocrine system. And when you're young, it doesn't affect you as much because your body just cranks out as much androgen as you need and can overcome all that. And then as you get older, you have a harder time keeping up with that. So once guys start hitting like 45 and 50, they start slowing down. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and experiment with this now. So I have been. And I think the only difference in these sorts of things that I've seen for me has been just energy level has been markedly improved and just ability to do more work. As far as like splitting firewood and stuff, which I've been doing a lot of lately. I can just do a lot more work when I'm taking these things other than otherwise. So that's been good. And then the last one, rhodiola, is a cool one. It's a little cactus that grows in not a cactus, it's like a succulent that grows in the Siberian tundra. Okay. And it is an adaptogen tonic that helps you deal with stress and mental clarity and memory and all those kind of things. And so there's a lot of herbs out there that kind of make claims to that. And I've tried a lot of them without really noticing much. But the ones that really, those 5 that I went through are the 5 that when I take them, I can notice a definite difference in how I feel and how often I get sick. So that is the smokestack stack of herbs as of the end of 2020. It's the smokestack stack.
The smokestack stack.
So there's your people skills update.
Which will now be available for you on Patreon. If you donate to Patreon, Smokestack will personally prepare a mixture of things to give to you as a donation.
We don't have a Patreon.
I know. We may get one.
We may
get one.
Would
But
any of
for
you
right
folks
now-
support our show if we had a Patreon?
Probably not. But I'll tell you what would happen.
What?
You know, the Patreon is always set up in these tiers. Like, if you do this, then you get access to this.
Right.
And one of the big problems with us is we don't have anything to give anybody.
Yeah.
Except maybe love and gratitude. And perhaps, I thought maybe early access to the eventual forthcoming radio drama.
Ooh, I'm excited about the radio drama. That's going to be
We're
great.
writing a radio drama. Now, will it be any good? I don't know.
Could be.
We've
Could
never,
be good.
We've never written one before. We're going to do a fictionalized podcast, which will be fun, and it'll be centered on the themes we discuss here on Maps, sort of.
Yep.
And and if you're a good voice actor, let us know, because there may be a role for you, especially if you're a lady that can sound both extremely sort of psychotically murderous, but also seductively sexual at the same time. We could use that, and it helps if you're Korean, though it's not a requirement.
Okay. It's a very specific set of...
It's a very specific set of skills. And so maybe we could give you early access to that. But I'm not promising that's going to be anything good. It may be awful.
Oh, it's going to be
Never
great.
written one before. We've never done a fictionalized podcast before, so it might not be worth anything.
Don't worry, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's gonna. Oh, yeah, that's right. We should just. You know what? That's what we're gonna sell. We're gonna sell crocheted pillows that say, "Don't worry, it's gonna be great."
I'd buy one of those.
That's gonna be our store. It's gonna be that and a kettlebell named Josie for $10,000.
Yep.
And like an herbal medicine kit.
Well,
and maybe rabbit fur. And people are like, what kind of store is this?
The $40,000 kettlebell. The $40,000 kettlebell is currently out of stock, but you can still view the listing on our website at mapsoc.org, mapsoc.org.
Yeah. What if that is? What if this whole thing just devolves into us selling our merch is rabbit fur and crocheted pillows?
That'd be great. I think everybody sells like stupid hats and t-shirts.
Yeah, but does anyone have a pillow? Look, you could take this pillow, you could sleep on it, and then you could take the rabbit fur and turn it into a blanket.
Well, Chungus was talking big to me on Twitter about knitting your own sweaters.
Does he knit?
I don't know if he knits. Maybe he should
start.
Chungus,
if you knit and you can knit rabbit fur, that would be fantastic.
We can really get a cool. We can have some rabbit fur products, some mittens and some caps made of the fur from Sumo's rabbit.
And you know what else? This
rabbits.
is why sometimes I look for synchronicities to tell me when I'm on the right path sometimes. And I was thinking about this Ice Age thing and this rabbits, and then I found out this lady said, well, the thing about rabbit fur is it's so warm that it really has to be, you have to live in a really cold environment for it to really be practical. And I said, well, what a coincidence. These are Ice Age rabbits.
Yeah.
And she said, what? And I said, don't worry about it. It's fine. Our listeners will understand. So maybe that's exactly what we're doing here. Right? I don't know. But so if we do get a Patreon, that's what we can give you is early access to the fictional podcast show, which is maybe going to be called, this sounds like a title that's already there. If it's not, it's maybe going to be called Apocalypse Later. Okay. I'm not sure.
I think that's already a thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be, but then I don't know. I didn't really look.
You might want to check the copyright office before you commit to that.
Well, I've never checked the copyright office for anything else I've ever done. And it just hasn't been a problem. They only really care if you start making lots of money. Yeah. In which case, you just pay them off, and then they go away.
Right.
So there's really no barrier to that.
Let's face it, we're not going to make a lot of money.
We're not going to make a lot of money, no, but we are going to have rabbit fur.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're a Patreon subscriber at a specific level, you get some rabbit wool. I don't know.
I like that.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I've got some good ideas for the administration of our Patreon now.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. You're going to get some rabbit wool covered in some ashwagandha pine tincture.
Yep.
And that'll be the thing.
Yep.
But Merry Christmas, everybody. It's a little
Merry
short
Christmas.
today because Smokestack has to go somewhere.
I do. I have to get ready
Merry
for my
Christmas.
journey.
We're recording this on Christmas Eve.
Eve.
So they may never get this because they'll be in the middle of dark winter.
I hope they get this.
Which, again, remember, lights go out. 6 weeks later, we're going to the Georgia Guidestones.
Only if Sumo picks me up in a carriage. You're going to have to hit me to your supplier of Angora rabbits, okay?
I will. Well, I'm going to be the supplier. I'm going to get some.
Okay, and then you'll sell them
some
to me.
Yeah.
Sweet. I might go to Home Depot later, get some wood.
I mean, like $15 an ounce. That's like almost a ounce. You're like growing almost silver.
Dude, that's incredible.
It's crazy.
Just grows out of their skin, man.
I know.
Hello, friend. I love you. I love you so much.